Hey, what's up, everybody? It's that time again. Time for the late debate. I'm EBar, and I'm being joined by the one Tony H. How's it going, buddy?
Oh, I'm feeling fantastic today. We're doing this earlier than we normally do, so there's still sunlight out, even in the cold heart of winter. Yeah,
Yeah, it is weird seeing sunlight on one of the shows on my channel because we don't. The crew doesn't get out during the day. We don't do
we're
things during the
vampires.
day. Exactly. It's actually hurting me a little bit to be doing this right now.
That's right.
But anyway, so Tony saw a good topic that Edge and Christian were going to do. And so we're just going to straight up steal it from them. And it's going to be wrestling Mount Rushmore, but not like all-time Mount Rushmore, just different categories of Mount Rushmores, which I thought would be pretty interesting. So maybe we could just alternate as far as who's going to go first on these. But we'll start with the 80s. So wrestling's Mount Rushmore for the 80s is what we'll start with. So who do you got for this one, Tony?
All right, I'm going to take into consideration, obviously WWF at the time was the big honcho, so I'm going Hulk Hogan number one. He definitely put it on the map. He was the man. He was the man that kind of put everything on there for me. I have to put Macho Man Randy Savage, number two, on the Mount Rushmore. Number three, now, granted, now I will put him on there because as an adult, I can go back and watch it, but as a kid, I didn't know. But Ric Flair, obviously what he did in the 80s was incredible. Some of the matches he had were just outstanding, and you just never realize until the network and stuff that comes out, you're like, wow, this guy really, I mean, you knew the stories, but,
Right.
it was not as easy when you were a kid. So I put Flair, and then I would say for a fourth, if I had to put one on there, I have to put Roddy Piper. I'm being biased, but that guy did a lot of good stuff from like WrestleMania 1 on, so I'm being biased on my Piper pick.
I mean, I don't really think that that's too biased, really, because he's one of the all-time greats. I mean, yeah, he was never the world champion, at least not in WWF, but still, it's hard to argue with Roddy Piper. Obviously, I think most people would pick Hulk Hogan easily for Mount Rushmore of the 80s, and then also probably Ric Flair. Macho Man, it's hard to disagree on. I didn't really start watching wrestling until the 90s. So, I've gone back now and I've seen a lot of stuff, but I don't know. I don't think that I really would argue any of those as far as, legends from the 80s. Like, I mean, there's a shitload of people, but how many had as much impact as those people? I mean, you got people who are main eventing WrestleManias, the original fucking WrestleManias. Maybe Andre. I don't know if that was like his heyday or what, but
Andre made an impact. I was gonna say the two that come to mind. Yeah, Andre obviously, and then another one again, non-WWE or WWF at the time. Dusty Rhodes. That was his heyday. He was a beast back in the 80s too.
That's true. The only one I might replace, I might put Andre instead of Roddy Piper. Dusty Rhodes definitely deserves to be in the conversation, and even Sting for the later 80s, right? Because he was super popular.
Yeah, but I'm saving him for another one of our things.
I got you. Okay, so moving on. Next is the 90s. So I'll go first for this one. I would say for the 90s, it would definitely start with Stone Cold Steve Austin. I'd probably still have Hulk Hogan on there because, I mean, he just had so much of an effect on what happened with the business as far as WCW and everything. I'd probably leave him on there. I think I would go Shawn Michaels because he was just, I I mean, he was Shawn Michaels. He held the WWF on his back whenever things weren't going so well for the company. Still put on great matches. Even though, you know, the very tail end of the 90s, he couldn't wrestle. But, and then I would probably say Sting for the 90s, honestly, because that Crow character, once he reinvented himself, was so compelling. And he was still like the savior for WCW and all that, and that was cool. So I think that those would be my 4. Who you got, Tony?
Yeah, that's hard to argue. Austin 1 is easy. I think Austin, just that staple was just like put WWF Attitude Era on the map. I cannot argue that. Number 2 would be Sting for me. Yeah, because he went from Bleach Bond. Who is this guy? I always love his old look. You're like, wow, this is Sting. To, yeah, they innovating the Crow character and just like was a badass the whole decade in WCW. So I got to go with Sting number 2. And then it starts getting a little tricky just because the 90s had a transition period, especially, you know, that early to mid 90s style to the late 90s. I'm going to throw The Undertaker on there just because he definitely was one of the guys that came in early 90s and was just like this dominant force. And he reinvented himself several times in the 90s in the WWF and was a main staple in a lot of main feuds. And that's no disrespect. Yeah, that's no disrespect to Shawn Michaels. And I mean, I think that's where I'm like cutting hairs between those two. And lastly, Hogan. I mean, yeah, if it was still the Hulkamania Hogan the whole time, I would not put him on the list. But he turned heel, and the NWO was the hottest thing going, and Hogan just ran with it. So I got to put Hogan on there, even in the 90s. I wouldn't put him as the number 1. That was, for me, he's the 80s number 1. But this, I'd say he's still on that Mount Rushmore to me.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to disagree because I think that the entire NWO thing, it was cool. You know, whenever it was starting with Hall and Nash, you didn't know who the third guy was going to be, but making the third guy be Hulk Hogan is what really made that skyrocket and hit that next level, you know. So it's hard to argue Hogan. Okay, and now the next one is going to be a Mount Rushmore for ECW. I can think of 4 just right off the top that immediately seem like they would be, but I want to hear yours first.
All right, so this is off the top of my head, obviously. Number 1 to me is Rob Van Dam. And easily. I just think he's the guy that when I think of ECW, there's a couple of guys that come to my head. Rob Van Dam is one of them. Number 2, Tommy Dreamer. I mean, I think that guy, like I said, always a staple for ECW, even afterwards. Like, Tommy Dreamer is just the guy, man. I always love that guy. Number 3, Sabu. Another guy that I just think is just the psychotic man with the plan. And then number 4, not Just Incredible. Man, I was about to. Now, Just Incredible is good. I'm not going to deny Just Incredible is good in ECW, but Sandman. I mean, Sandman, he reinvented his gimmick. He was like a surfer dude, and then he just comes out and bashes his head with a beard. I don't know. I know there's a lot of good ECW people, but I mean, out of the 4, it's got to be, like I said, RVD, Sabu, Sandman, and my God, I just did the list and I forget the 4th one.
Tommy Dreamer.
Oh, Tommy Dreamer. Yeah. There you go. That's my 4.
Okay. Well, I agree. Well, I mean, I don't disagree with any of them, but the ones that would also make mine would be Rob Van Dam and Tommy Dreamer. And then my other 2, I think I would probably go with Taz and yeah, I think I'm going Raven. Because I mean, he just had, you know, especially with Tommy Dreamer, and he had some great feuds in ECW. He probably prospered, well, easily prospered there as a character more than anywhere else. And yeah, so I would go Rob Van Dam, Taz, Tommy Dreamer, and Raven for my
That's a good
ECW.
list. I totally forgot about ECW Raven. That was sick. Yeah, but I'm keeping my 4. But yeah, that's a good list.
All right. Next up, cruiserweights. Mount Rushmore for cruiserweights. This is kind of a tough one because so many cruiserweights like transitioned to being world champions, or heavyweight champions, I guess. I didn't grow up like watching AAA or anything like that, so my cruiserweight knowledge is limited to WCW and WWE, pretty much.
So that's fair. I think it's most of our audience.
Yeah, so I mean, right off the top, you got to go Rey Mysterio. I think he's easily one of the most famous. He's one of the even smaller guys who like really was a cruiserweight that actually won the World Heavyweight Championship. There were I'm trying to think because there were so many in WCW at the time, but I'm trying to think of the ones that really I really enjoyed. Like, I want to say Eddie Guerrero, but he was a cruiserweight that he kind of transcended the division. I don't know.
There's a Guerrero that, I mean, he's not going to be my Mount Rushmore. Juventud Guerrero.
That was Guerrero, bro.
Oh, sorry.
The juice is loose. Come on now.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
What about Chavo?
Chavito? Yeah.
No, okay, so I would probably say Ray, Eddie. Honestly, in the more modern era, I might put Neville on there just because he truly was king of the cruiserweights. He put on consistently good matches, even though they always would stick him on the pre-show or whatever. Enzo notwithstanding, because nobody can put a great match with Enzo.
Is he in your Mount Rushmore, that Enzo guy?
Yeah, it's Enzo, and Enzo. It's just 4 fucking Enzos. That's my cruiser
dance right now. I'd be like,
and let's see. I always back in WCW thought Ultimo Dragon was pretty cool.
Oh yeah,
I know that he did a lot of shit in Japan which I haven't seen, but I think I put him on there. It's probably my weakest knowledge of Mount Rushmore will probably be with the cruiserweights, but yeah, so that's mine. What do you got?
All right, number 1, Rey Mysterio, especially stuff in WCW. If you haven't watched it, please go watch it. It was absolutely incredible back in WCW. If I could just throw a random match for you to watch, Halloween Havoc 97, him and Eddie Guerrero, that was like all-time classic.
That's the go-to.
It was an amazing match. Number 2, Billy Kidman. I always thought Billy Kidman was one of those guys, even in WWE transition days where he got a little bit bigger, but he was awesome, man. He did a lot of
I did like Billy Kidman a lot. I like the shooting star press. His wasn't like as perfect as somebody like Evan Bourne, but it was just cool. I did like Kidman. I actually forgot about him.
Yeah. So I would have to go with Billy Kidman as another guy that I was like a big fan of back then. I'm going to go with Gregory Helms, a.k.a. Hurricane, because in the Gregory Helm days, that guy put on some very, very good matches that I can remember. This is, again, our Mount Rushmore. Everyone's got different ones, but
right.
Gregory Helms definitely did what he needed to do. In WCW, yeah, he kind of threw a bad gimmick, but then he was Hurricane. Then he put on fun matches. Then when he was just Gregory Helms with like the skull cap near the end and a cruiserweight champion, I was like, all right, this guy's reinvented himself. He's really good. And then the 4th, I'm going to throw a little bit of surprise, and this is his early career. This obviously isn't now. AJ Styles in the X division in TNA, because he was technically a cruiserweight back then and considered, back in that part of his career. So I would have to go AJ number 4, and those matches were phenomenal.
I see what you did there.
Aha.
Not just a hat rack. All right. Next, Mount Rushmore for tag teams. What are you thinking on this one?
Ooh. All right. So mine would be number 1, the Hardys. I mean, that's just my team growing up. I love the Hardys. They were just my badasses. Number 2, Edge and Christian. Again,
Nice.
we're doing like growing up, just a badass team. Number 3, the Dudleys. It just seems to be going in line with easily. And then 4, the Outsiders, Hall and Nash. because to me, those guys just they clicked really well. No pun intended again. But what they did in WCW, they were just there was one of those great tag teams, the Scott Hall, little like frantic thing, and Kevin Nash just doing his mocking, and I don't know. That was my 4. I know they come off the top of my head. I know I'm missing some, but those are just like the easy 4 that for my personal Mount Rushmore.
I hear you. I would go probably off the top. I would start with the New Age Outlaws because they were one of my favorite teams growing up, like you're saying. I just love DX, thought that they were just awesome. So probably go New Age Outlaws. Then I'd probably go Outsiders after that. Man, there's been a lot of good tag teams.
Yes.
I do love Edge and Christian. I wonder, I don't know. I feel like I'm forgetting people. Should have probably made this list
I left off Legion of Doom. So I'm probably going to get shit for that.
I mean, Legion of Doom, they were great, but again, this is our personal Mount Rushmore.
Okay, hold on. I'm going to throw, I have to throw one out. I know I shouldn't be doing this, but Dudley Boys, I love you, but you're going to be pushed aside. Demolition. Growing up, I was a huge Demolition fan, so I'm going to have to put Demolition above the Dudleys for me. So you're like 5th.
I gotcha. Okay. I was totally past. I mean, we were totally past the days of Demolition whenever I started watching. So I honestly don't know too much about them.
Oh, they were awesome. They were awesome.
That's what I hear.
Smash and Crush. That was it, man.
Better than the Road Warriors?
In my opinion, yes. I know some people will argue that, but I like Demolition better than them. I thought they just had a different thing about them, and they were just like, they were awesome, man. Everything about them were awesome. Demolition definitely should have been my top 4. Again, this is what you get off the top of your head, guys. We don't prep. This is like all in the mind. So
yeah, we're not one of those shows that puts work into it. We just kind of talk.
Like, let me read off my sheet what I put. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. New Age Outlaws, Outsiders. I'm trying to think because I remember whenever I first started watching, and I know this is not a good tag team, but one of the tag teams I thought was really entertaining from the NWO was Scott Steiner and Buff Bagwell. Do you remember them being a team? They seemed cool,
for sure.
That was before I really knew a whole lot about wrestling. The Steiner brothers, they were a good team, but I wasn't a huge fan of them. I don't know if you can count the original DX of Triple H and Shawn, because I don't think in the first run they were ever tag team champions, were they? They fought together once in a while.
Not that I recall, no. I mean, maybe I have to fact check, but I'm pretty sure they weren't. Because I know Shawn Michaels was the main guy, so I don't think they were.
Spirit Squad, obviously.
What about the Rock and Sock Connection? Rock and Mankind.
That was a good one. And they did hold the belts a few times. And then you've also got teams like fucking Kane and The Undertaker, Brothers of Destruction.
Yeah. Oddball tag team, Kane and X-Pac. I did not mind that.
Oh, yeah. Actually, I was really into that. And I was kind of pissed off whenever DX got back together and they're like, oh, we're making Kane an official DX member tonight. And then they turned on him.
Yeah,
jerks. But I still love DX. Let's see. I really did like X-Pac and Kane. I forgot all about them. There's so many that, just slip your mind because this different shit's been going on for so long. But I'm gonna do this and put New Day up there.
That's fair. As much as I don't like them lately, that is fair. It's a fair one to put in your Mount Rushmore.
Very solid tag team. And they've been together for a few years now. And wow, one more.
It's tough, man.
I'll also go the Hardys because while they were both good separately, they did have a lot of those tandem tag team moves that make for a good team. And And you know, I always used to prefer Matt Hardy, even whenever he was like version 1. But then I met Jeff Hardy, and I totally marked out. So obviously, I like both of them. So I'll put the Hardys on there too.
I want to give my special TNA shout out to 2 teams in particular, Beer Money,
good team,
and Motor City Machine Guns. So those are my 2 teams I'm gonna give my shout outs to for TNA style. I'm not putting them on my Mount Rushmore, but I think they had a feud in 2010, a best of 5 series with 5 different match stipulations, which I to this day wish they would do in WWE. I know they don't like taking the idea, but do it a best of 5. Ah, man. All right, don't get me started.
That is kind of interesting, though. I mean, because at least a best of 5 is one thing, and they will do that every once in a while with like a couple of wrestlers. But to give each match a different stipulation, that actually would make it much more interesting.
Correct. Yeah, that was good.
All right, the next one on the list is NWA, Mount Rushmore, which, I mean, the next one after it is WCW. Don't those kind of blend together?
I'm going to be fair. We have to put them together because my NWA knowledge is a little sketchy enough to where I won't know many. So I'm going to have to say combine the both.
I mean, yeah, that company became the other one, so.
Correct.
So we're just going to go ahead and hit WCW. So, yeah. Who you got?
One is Flair. I mean, Ric Flair, and this is, okay, I'm going to make it 1A, 1B, Flair and Sting. I mean, if you're really thinking WCW, to me, it's Flair and Sting, 1A, 1B. They're there practically the whole time, except Flair had a little blip in WWF back in the early 90s. But, I mean, they both did so much for the industry. They did everything they could. They did every match type it seems like they could. They were just the pioneers of that company. Booking. I'm going to continue to say WCW had good ideas, had different ideas, but the booking cost them in the end. And I just really hate to see how things were going. Like, okay, Sting had this whole year where he was silent, and he fought Hogan, and it took some BS for Sting to win instead of Sting just straight up kicking his ass. Like, screw him.
I mean, after a year of build-up, it's time. Just let him dominate. That would be awesome.
Yes, and just let him be the silent champion, even for like 3 months, and they didn't do that. And then you could have just, with Flair, he was starting to get popular. I think it was like 99 where he was starting to come back, and you could have revived the company with a face Flair for a little while and then build it up. And then they turned him heel, and they did a screw up. And we all know this is obviously a Mount Rushmore, but my point is those 2 were the staple of every single big thing, in my opinion, when it comes to WCW. So Flair and Sting are 1A, 1B. 3, Hogan. Again, you know, he came in there mid-90s, but then as soon as he turned to go to NWO and was the face of that company, he revived it. So I'm giving Hogan his due at number 3. And then at number 4 is interesting because I want to put a group in there, but I don't know if I'm allowed to in this. So
I don't. It might be hard to carve that many faces.
That's what I'm saying. Like the little mini. Because I put the 4 Horsemen. I mean, they made an impact the entire time in WCW. So I mean, it's hard to. If I had to pick one, no. You know what? I take that back. As much as I respect that, Rey Mysterio, because I mean, the Cruiserweight division was him, and he was a huge impact. By the time he was in, by the time he bolted. So I'm going Ray 4.
I like that. As for mine, it would be the first 3 are the exact same. Flair, Sting, Hogan. Then the last one, man, I feel like you got to go Goldberg. I mean, he resurged the fucking company. I mean, he was their monster there in the late 90s. So, yeah, those would be my 4.
See, here's the thing. I thought longevity more than I did just the fact of a blip. Now, I agree with you. You're exactly right. Goldberg deserved to be on that list of Mount Rushmore, but I was thinking the longevity of people who have been in that company for a long time and made some sort of more impact. And you're absolutely right, though. Goldberg's run was pretty damn incredible. And, you know.
I mean, it was part of what helped him beat WWE for 81 weeks or however long it was.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I've talked about it at length about how I'm not a huge Goldberg fan, but as far as like a WCW Mount Rushmore, I'd probably put him on there. Yeah. Okay, so next is the big one here: WWF/WWE top 4 all time. I'll go first. I'm gonna say Hogan, Austin, Hogan, Austin, Cena, and The Undertaker. And I really wanted to throw The Rock in there, as well as Shawn Michaels, but it's just like long-lasting impact at this point is what I'm thinking. So, yeah, Hogan, Austin, Undertaker, and John Cena.
Well then, that's interesting. I disagree with a couple. So Hogan and Austin, no, those are 1, 2. Obviously Hogan's impact is, again, as you love him or hate him, but that guy, he made the industry the way it was. In the 80s, he was the face that ran the place, literally. Austin, just a badass. You gotta just admire what he went through. I'm putting The Rock up there. He's my number 3. Even in his few years' time as the main eventer, I mean, he rose from like the gutters to like the guy everybody wanted to clamor and see. And plus, even though it was only a couple months, that heel run in Hollywood Rock, man. Oh my gosh, I absolutely.
That was a good run.
It was fantastic. I wish it was like a 6-month run like that because he was so good. But then, yeah, he disappeared for a while, and now he does the guest appearances from time to time. But what he made for that industry, especially with Austin being gone, I thought was a huge, huge impact, and people still clamor for him. And then my number 4, like I said, I'm going old school. I'm going Randy Savage. And
nice. Can't argue with that.
I just think that Macho Man to this day, you still see Macho Man shirts around. You still have the, oh yeah. I mean, you got people who are just, we're clamoring for like Macho Man and how long he was in the industry. For me, he's personally in my top 4. Now, that's not a slight at Cena and everything he's done. And another guy I would put up in that category just a notch below is CM Punk. And the only reason why I'm going to say CM Punk is because to this day, people are clamoring for him, and he's been gone for 4 years. If you've been gone that long and people are diehard for you to come back, you did leave your mark on industry.
Great point. That is true. Because people leave sometimes, and then it's like whatever. And with him, there's always like a little, even if people are like, "Hey, shut up," there's always that little rumor like, "Oh, CM Punk, what if he came back, or he was spotted in this town?" And it's like, "Oh no," and yeah, so he's right up there. And I think another honorable mention that I would give would be Chris Jericho.
Absolutely.
Being able to reinvent himself time and again, and always entertaining no matter really what he's doing. And I mean, yeah, he leaves for a couple years here and there, but just his WWE run has spanned almost 20 years. So
I think, and again, it is a long list anyways, and it's a fun list, but if you separated the WWF Mount Rushmore and the WWE Mount Rushmore, so from 2002 on and then past to 2002, I really think you'd have a different list. That's just my opinion.
Probably, yeah. I mean, I'd agree with you. This here on the list is just a WWF/WWE, and just thinking of it as all time the company, but it would be a different list if you split it for sure.
If it was the E, I would put Jericho in my top 4 easily.
Yeah, I think I'd have to agree with that. Probably still have Undertaker. Not so much Hogan and Austin though.
And the E, yeah, no, not really. I would have to say, I mean, off the top of my head, again, this is thrown out there. My top 4 in the E era would have to be Cena, Jericho, Edge, and then if I had to throw a 4th on there, Undertaker. And I know, near the end here has been kind of just spotty matches, but he still put on some very, very fun matches.
Yeah, and especially in the early, like right after the change, he was still going pretty hard. And then he, when which we've talked about the Undertaker shit, but the American Badass thing to switching back to the Dead Man and everything. So I think that he would still make the Mount Rushmore even in the E era, and possibly in the F era. So
I love that Randy Orton.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think I'd put him up there. I mean, he's a good talent. He's had lots of great matches, but I don't know. A lot of times it just seems like he flips on autopilot and just lets the match happen.
That's fair.
And the last one it says here is entrance music.
Oh boy.
I think, in my opinion, number one is Edge, dude. That music hits hard. It gets you pumped. Yeah, I love Edge's music. I would probably put. I guess you can't put DX, since it is entrance music, so
yeah,
I guess you could.
Why not?
Just, I rock out to DX a lot.
The Run DMC.
That's probably the best version. I mean, it's better than the normal version.
Yeah, I watched that old episode of SmackDown recently from 2000, and yeah, I had the Run DMC version again. I'm like, oh yeah, from Kia Rock, whoa. Yeah, that was really, that's pretty sweet.
Yeah, and I liked Billy Kidman's music in WCW. I liked his music in WWF too. I don't think I put him on there. I think I put Shawn Michaels' "Sexy Boy" song. It's just a classic, man. I love that song. And Christian, whenever he had the chick singing his music, that was a good interest. So those are mine. What do you got?
Number one has been, will be Vince McMahon, "No Chance in Hell." That is my number one theme song of all time. That song and that little strut he does as he goes to the ring. To me, it's the number one theme song of all time. I absolutely love it. Number two, maybe just because Kurt Angle's music. I don't know, something about it. And now everybody adding the "You Suck" afterwards. It just has that nice ring to it. Everybody loved it. I just like that. Number three, I'm going WCW, DDP's music. Dude, I love that. Yeah. When he was like the face back in the late 90s, I absolutely love that DDP music. That was a badass music. And number four, I'm going group. I don't care. The original NWO theme. I mean, as soon as you hear that, you knew shit was going down. And then, I mean, that was just, again, I absolutely love the NWO theme. And
is it true? I heard that the NWO theme, that they got it from a porno.
That would not surprise me. But I don't believe
I don't know if that's true or not, but that's a rumor I heard.
Yeah, that would be weird if it was, because all the stuff that happened during that point, like, oh my god, yeah. I don't imagine.
I mean, just try to imagine watching a porno and that is the background music, like maybe in the 90s.
Yeah, and then have Hogan, and I picture Hogan doing the strut with the belt.
Playing it like a guitar in the background.
Yeah, and as you're sitting there, you're watching some girl go at it, and you're just seeing Hogan in the background with Bischoff just going like that. Oh yeah, man. No, but I loved it. Now I will respect the Wolfpack music too. The Wolfpack music was badass. So that's my four off the top of my head. And obviously my dark horse, and it really was, like I said, I went back to this. My dark horse was the Rock Hollywood theme. I don't know what it was with the helicopter flying in and then it is cooking. I loved it, man. That was, again, just an underrated badass theme song.
I would agree with that. It is pretty badass. All right. So that took us through the list. We had some discrepancies and we had some we agreed on. So it was all good. So let us know down in the comments what your Mount Rushmores would be. The categories are 80s, 90s, ECW, cruiserweights, tag teams, WCW, WWF, WWE, and entrance music. So let us know all your Mount Rushmores.
By the way, all right, before we go, do you have a Mount Rushmore of TNA?
Dude, I don't think that I watched it enough to be able to, I would only catch it here and there. Okay, if I was making it a TNA Mount Rushmore of having hardly any TNA knowledge, I would put AJ Styles, Christopher Daniels, Abyss, and Christian Cage.
That's not a bad dude. That's not a bad list. Mine is AJ Styles, Samoa Joe, Kurt Angle, because I mean Kurt Angle was there for a long period of time.
I should have said Samoa Joe.
Oh yeah. Again, you said limited knowledge. That's why I didn't say anything. So yeah, AJ, Joe, Angle, and then my fourth one, I'd actually have to put Christian on there as well. No, the mathematical man. I put Christian.
Yeah, if you're going for the mathematicians Mount Rushmore, then an easy number one is Scott Steiner. We'll just leave it at that.
100%. Yeah, exactly. You know, with the 66.6% chance of getting this right. But yeah, that's my TNA top 4. Just letting you know. Wait, just in case somebody asks about the list.
Yeah, include that as well whenever you're filling out the comment questionnaire.
That's right.
All right, but yeah, that'll do it for us. If you got any topics you wouldn't hate to hear us talk about, leave them down in the comments below. Tony, do you have any plugs?
Go to the EBar Discord. We talk on the daily. It's awesome. I'm sure he'll send the link. Mixer.com/th1ne. I haven't streamed this much lately. I'm getting to it. I say that all the time, but you know, life. What can you do? So that'd be about it.
Cool. Yeah. Follow me on Twitter at EBarSays. And if you're watching this video, just click that subscribe button, and I'd appreciate it. So until next time, for Tony H and EBar, this has been The Late Debate.
Peace out, A-Town.